Erica, hi, how you doing? Thanks so much for your submission. I think you're good. I really do. I think you're fine. Whoops, didn't want to do that. You mentioned that this is a rough draft right now. This is fine, and you're finding difficulty for finding the information. But did you go over to the course announcements? Go to the course announcements because I have a video there and I have an example from a prior student as well as I listed 5 or 6 resources. So if you just go over to the course announcements there, you'll find a whole bunch of stuff to get you going, including links to IOC, International Olympic Committee, and some of their outlining resources as well. So I think that's a really great place if you're having difficulties finding the information you want. So Berchtesgaden, it's so hard to say that word. Ber, Ber, Berchtesk, Berchtesgaden. Berchtesgaden. So I think that the location will work just fine. You mentioned that you have another backup, but I don't think you're going to need to do that. I think this will work just fine. Also, I want to mention, I don't want to give you more work than what we already have here. So you have submitted a really good start. So as opposed to trying to fix this up for this week, go ahead and just make your changes and submit it for the final next week for your proposal, your bid proposal. But in the meantime, there's a few things I'd like you to consider. You've got the bare bones here. You got a good basic start, but you got to think about things like this. And I'm just going to share a lot of the things that I've been sharing with. Boy, try to pronounce that. Holy mackerel! Wow. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, so here's what I'm thinking. Okay, so you've got your basic foundation down. So we want to talk about things like weather. Can the weather accommodate winter Olympic events and the nearby mountains, and are they accommodating for skiing, etc.? And keep in mind that your viewer is not familiar with this location like you are, so make sure that you provide enough information so that the viewer can really take a look at this bid proposal and say, yeah, I think this would work. It would be, let's take it on to the next round of consideration. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, so talk about the weather, the average climate, and how that associates with a successful winter Olympic event. Talk about the venues that would be used. I think you said that this was one of 7 cities that bid to host the 1992 Winter Olympics. So you should have a lot of information available there. But there's things like this, like the venues that are used for the main events, like speed skating and figure skating, and that they have to have a whole stadium built. So is there something like, okay, for example, if this was in Los Angeles, not that the Winter Olympics would be in Los Angeles, but if it were, we would have the stadium there that we could use and convert that temporarily into a venue that could be used for Olympics. Are there anything like that? Is there anything like that available in your location? If not, we would have to consider, we would have to talk about the cost incurred in building such venues. Also, talk about the accommodations for coaches, athletes, and the massive amounts of media that will converge on this city for the event. So try to research how many hotel rooms are available, not only in the city, but also surrounding cities that will also probably share in housing some of the millions of people that will converge on this location. So, and then talking about the neighboring cities that will help to house the millions of people. And you also want to talk about easy and affordable transportation infrastructure, public transportation, buses, trains, trams, rental cars, things like that. What is available? So that's something that's also the transportation, the actual infrastructure between the cities that will house all the millions of people that come into the city, meaning that how are the highways? Are the highways able to accommodate the kind of traffic that will be going back and forth from these cities? The train rails, the airports. Talk about all of that and how that relates to the successful bid for this location. The energy infrastructure, try to find out some information about is it capable of holding the kind of energy, the power grid, able to sustain the type of power influx, electricity, and usage that would be associated with several million people converging on one specific location. You talked a little bit about nightlife, and that's good, that's important, but I want you to talk a little bit more about nightlife. In other words, what kind of nightlife is involved? How many restaurants are available? How many Are there nightclubs available? And then, of course, that would segue logically into public safety. So when people aren't actually at the events and they're out being tourists, are they going to be safe? So talk about public safety, social issues and equality, the political climate. So in other words, is this a political hotbed area? Is this prone to any sort of terror alerts or any sort of military escalations associated with the geographic location of the area? Talk about that. Talk about national disasters. Is the area prone to national disasters? For example, if you had an area that is prone to earthquakes, of course, it might not be the best place in the world to pick for an event where you're bringing millions of people for a limited period of time. Talk about medical accommodations. How many hospitals are available in the nearby vicinity? Not only hospitals, but clinics, emergency clinics, and other. So people will be able to receive the medical attention that they might possibly need in the 2 weeks that they would be spending in this location. Talk about pollution. I don't doubt we have much to worry about pollution here, but think about Beijing. Think about all the concern about pollution in Beijing and how that will affect the choice of using Beijing for hosting an Olympic event. You talked a little bit about using some ideas for your visual approach and talk about the rich cultural heritage of the area. You got into a lot of this stuff a little bit, but I would really like to see you expound on a lot of it and really try to get a lot more on the table here, so to speak, so that the viewer can read this and ascertain. Now, it's not an official document. Of course, we're not going to be submitting it, but so the viewers, your classmates and myself, we can read it and we can say, okay, this is going to work or this isn't. So, for example, you say, okay, but one of the problems is that there's only 1,200 hotel rooms available within a 100-mile radius, while the International Olympic Committee recommends 3,700 for a event of this magnitude. Okay, so things like that. This all points to research. Okay, so like I said, you're well on your way. So I am just looking for a little bit more in terms of filling in the blanks. And really allowing your viewer to take a look at this and say, hey, this is going to work, or hey, I see some problems. Okay, good job. Any questions at all, give me a holler. But please be sure to go over to the announcements area and visit those announcements and those resources that I have provided in there for you. Okay, any questions? Give me a holler. Thanks.